We published a sponsored video introducing the Ninja FlexFlame a couple of weeks ago and apparently made a good number of viewers frustrated that we sold out with that review. Here's the thing, I never claimed that that was a review, but this video is my unsponsored, unfiltered review of the Ninja FlexFlame. I'm David Gafford, and here at the Barbecue Lab, we test all things outdoor cooking and living to help you make informed decisions when it comes to your outdoor product purchases. And seeing that this is, in fact, a business that costs money to run, yes, we do on occasion take on sponsorships to create content. That sponsored content wasn't a review, but this one isn't sponsored, and it is a review, so let's get to it. There were a ton of questions in the comments that I'm going to try to tackle in this video, but the one I saw the absolute most was, can it smoke a brisket? Let's tackle that first. I'm going to ignite the grill. We're going to turn it all the way down to low and slow, and 225 degrees is our starting point today. That is just the middle burner set to low. We have a gorgeous dry-aged whole brisket from Porter Road, and it's time to get this seasoned. We're going to go with salt and pepper. Nice healthy coat, it can take it, it's a huge hunk of meat. And for me, a little extra pepper for that crunchy bark. The FlexFlame is up to temperature, we're ready to put the brisket on, but it brings us to the next question, and that is, does the FlexFlame have a way to monitor internal temperature in your meat? And it does not. The FlexFlame does not come with any food probes, so today I'm going to use the RFX meat from ThermalWorks in our brisket. Typically you find probes more in the pellet grill market than the gas grill market, and this is more of a gas grill than a pellet grill, but I will say that this is one that probably, I think at some point they'll want to add a probe to. All right, the brisket is going on center grate. Remember, it's just this middle burner that is on, so we will see how this does on the FlexFlame. I'm also going to set up the RFX gateway with an ambient temperature probe so we can monitor what's going on inside the grill and we can see those temperatures also. I'm going to put this, let's say, right here in front of the brisket. It looks like a pretty decent spot. It's not directly over the fire, so we'll see how we're doing from a temperature in the grill, not just in the meat. I went ahead and set up the app to give us notifications on the gateway to above 300 or below 175. And on the RFX meat, I said, let me know if it ever gets above 160, and those will be our benchmarks on the RFX meat. The next question is, do you have to use Ninja pellets? Well, let's find out. These are lumberjack pellets, and we're gonna take these and fill up the hopper today, and we're gonna run lumberjack to see how they do in the grill. To get the smoke going, I'm going to hit the wood fire flavor button. I went ahead and set a timer. This first one is for how long these pellets smoke during this session. We'll go ahead and find out how long a load lasts. And then this second one here is for the entirety of the cook to let us know how long it takes to cook a brisket on the FlexFlame. It's been 48 minutes and I'm not really seeing much smoke coming out of the back. But if we take a look here into the pellet hopper, you can see there's a little bit of smoldering going on. And Ninja says you don't need to add more pellets. Now, me being one who doesn't like to follow rules that I don't necessarily understand or agree with, I'm going to add more pellets because I like the idea of more smoke on my brisket. So I'm just going to fill this up with a few more pellets, and we're going to let this continue to smoke to add that flavor to our brisket. You can see it's just been about a minute and a half since we put those pellets in, but the smoke is already back. That's one of the reasons I like adding more pellets in the middle of a cook. Now, someone asked the question, can you do an overnight brisket on the FlexFlame? I think for this reason, the fact that I needed to add more pellets at about the 48-minute mark, that's probably why I would say you shouldn't do an overnight brisket on this machine. It's not designed to have continual smoke unless you add more pellets to the hopper. Very, very small hopper to add that wood-fired flavor. As you can see here, it hasn't quite been 2 hours, but I'm getting an alert here on the ThermalWorks app that says we are at 160 degrees internal on our brisket. 160 degrees internal is often where I would wrap on an offset or a pellet grill, but this has only been under 2 hours. I'm not sure that's enough time for us to get the smoke that we want. So let's look and see how we're doing. Here is what our brisket looks like at the 2-hour mark. I don't think that's enough smoke color for me. I would like it to look a little darker, a little deeper. So what I'd like to do is I'm gonna go ahead and put more pellets in, let this continue to go, and I'm not gonna wrap quite yet. We're gonna let this go a little bit longer before we put it in our foil to steam a little bit. It's been 2 hours and about 45 minutes since we put the brisket in the Ninja. What I want to do is show you that we're at 176 degrees internal, and that's surprising for under 3 hours. What I want to do is I want to take a look underneath the brisket and see what the bottom looks like, since there's really not a deflector keeping the heat from the bottom of this brisket. Let's take a look. There's what the brisket looks like, but underneath, it looks good. I don't see anything that's burned. That convection fan is keeping this from scorching on the bottom, even though the heat is directly below this brisket. We're at 175. I think it's time to go ahead and wrap this and let it finish. But we're under 3 hours wrapping a brisket at 225 on the Ninja. This is acting like a hot and fast cooking machine. According to our RFX meat, we've hit that 203 to 204 range, which is usually where I take my briskets to. The thing is, I want to see if this probes tender, and if it doesn't probe tender, it still has a little bit of time to go. But let's go ahead and take this and see. Yeah, if I probe in here, it is not completely tender yet. So I need to let this go a little bit more so that this probes tender like that butter. And I was challenged recently by a friend that you could let your brisket go all the way up to 212 degrees, especially when you're cooking hot and fast. This isn't technically a hot and fast cook, but it sure has gone fast with this convective fan. So we're gonna go ahead and let this go higher and see if we can get it to probe tender. For those of you following along on the timeline, we're at 4 hours and 35 minutes to get to 204 on this brisket. According to our ThermoWorks app, we're at 207 in the brisket, and we are at 5 hours and 43 minutes into this cook. Let's go ahead and check internally and see what we're seeing and what we're feeling with our probe. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of soft butter, room temperature butter that I'm used to feeling with a done brisket. This brisket is done, and at 5 hours and 43 minutes. That's pretty impressive. So if you like fast brisket, we did a fast brisket. We're gonna go ahead and pull this off, let it rest for a little bit, and we'll show you what it looks like. I went ahead and opened it up so we can let some of the steam vent off so it doesn't continue cooking while we're resting it. But that is what our brisket looks like just out of the wrap after hitting that 207 mark. The brisket has rested, and I have to admit, I cannot believe I'm about to cut into a brisket that I put on the smoker less than 8 hours ago. We are now at 7 hours and 48 minutes. There's still some steam coming off of this because it's 33 degrees outside at the moment here in Indiana. But here is the grand reveal for those of you who want to see what a FlexFlame brisket looks like. That is what a FlexFlame brisket looks like. Nice and flexible. I really like that about a brisket. Let's take it over to the cutting board. Pull out our RFX. I liked having temperature monitoring even though it's not on the FlexFlame. Let's take off a few slices and see how she looks. There's our brisket. Nice and loose. It'll pull apart really easy, I'm sure. Look at that. There it is. If you look at the slice, I'm sure some of you are going to say, there's no smoke ring. I'm not terribly surprised. We didn't use a whole lot of pellets and or smoke. I guess the question is there smoke flavor? Let's find out. I've eaten a lot of briskets in my day, some that were really smoky, some that had no smoke at all. I would say that this one doesn't really have a smoke flavor. It was smoked. We used that wood fire feature, but I don't taste the smoke. I would say it's actually more on the side of a pot roast than it is on the side of a brisket. Which, for some of you, you might be saying, I love pot roast. Great. In that case, this is probably for you. If you're really looking for that smoked brisket on an offset type flavor, it is not the same flavor because those pellets, while they're adding smoke, not adding the same level of smoke flavor that you might hope if you're used to either a charcoal or an offset brisket. Melissa's going to taste it on camera and give us her thoughts. I'm going to have to get super close with the microphone so she can talk into it.
Right now I'm just chewing. Good flavor, but yeah, I don't really get any smoke flavor to it.
Does it remind you of a pot roast more than a brisket?
It does, yeah. Yeah.
So let's return to the original question. Can you smoke a brisket on the FlexFlame? You can cook a brisket on the FlexFlame. Absolutely. Is it a true smoked brisket? I mean, I'm going to go with probably not. It is a well-cooked brisket. It's tender. The slice is easy to pull apart, but I do not get the smoke flavor. So I'm going to answer that you can cook a brisket on the FlexFlame, but it's not going to be a deep smoked brisket. Melissa just asked, how does this compare to a pellet grill smoked brisket with this one that we just cooked here on the FlexFlame? I would say that I get a little bit smokier flavor on a pellet grill than I do on the FlexFlame, primarily because it's using the wood for fuel, and you're going through so much more wood in comparison to that small hopper on this that takes, what, 2 cups? So a lot more wood on a pellet grill than what you're getting with this. It is a smoked brisket, but I get more flavor on a pellet grill. Now that we've solved the brisket question and it's 40 degrees warmer outside, let's address some of the other questions viewers had from the last video. It was asked if there is storage for the griddle and the pizza stone down underneath the grill in the storage cabinet. There is not storage for those 2 items for a couple of reasons. First of all, the pizza stone is incredibly fragile. You don't want to be able to put that down there, move the grill around and have that shatter on you. I want that to go in a safe place, and on the bottom of a grill that's moving around a patio that might not be super even, that's not where I want it to go. The griddle is also really wide, and there's not enough room in there with the propane tank to put the griddle in storage underneath the grill. Maybe that's something they could solve in another version, but in this version, you have to find some place to put those that's not underneath. However, while the griddle is in use, you can put the grill grates here on the left side of the cabinet. Those will fit in there and store just fine. Next, someone asked if the fan can be turned off. Well, the fan is a part of the digital controller. I haven't seen any ability for the fan to be turned off on that digital screen. There is no app for it, so I don't think the fan can be turned off at all. The only thing that turns off the fan is this little lever. When this is depressed, when this lid is closed, that tells the fan it can go. When it's open, the fan is off. That's the only way I'm aware of taking the fan on this device and turning it off. Does this FlexFlame have a rotisserie attachment? It does not currently have a rotisserie attachment, and I'm not aware of any holes in the side to put a rod through, so I'm not sure that this model is designed for a rotisserie, and they currently don't offer one. Will this FlexFlame come in a larger or XL size? I can't speak to the plans that Ninja has because I don't work for Ninja, but the idea is they're constantly reading the comments on videos just like this one. So if you want to see a larger size, put that in the comments, and I'm sure that there's some really lowly paid intern taking screenshots of all of the comments to take to R&D, and you might just see something like that in the future. But as of right now, I'm not aware that there's any plans on a larger version. Another popular question was asking if this is just propane or can you also do natural gas. This is a strictly propane grill. Now you can use pellets for the smoke flavor using that wood fire button, but that is not fuel, that's really just flavor. This does not have natural gas capabilities, nor is it planned to. The question was asked if the front to back burner was always lit whenever you light this grill up. So come on in here, get in the grill. I'm gonna light it up so you can see. I'm gonna go ahead and hit the igniter and the pilot. And you can see that that is lit from front to back. When I go to the grill option, it all is lit left to right, but so is that front to back burner. I go to the next setting, which is the 2-zone cooking. The 2-zone cooking, it is still lit, even though not all 3 are lit. This back one is not lit. These front 2 are. While we're on 2-zone cooking, I want to speak to that real quick. There is a way to do 2-zone cooking on this grill, but the area that is not lit is the back burner. So the back burner is off. The front and the middle burners are on. Come in here and take a look. This is what it looks like. So on that 2-zone cooking, front is lit, middle is lit, back is not lit. But this burner running from front to back stays lit the entire time. So when would you want to use a 2-zone cook? Say you're cooking chicken breasts across the entire grate. You have some that finish first and you want to set them aside. You can either set them on the top rack or on that back part. So then you have both the upper rack and the bottom part of the grate that doesn't have an active fire underneath, and you can let things kind of still stay warm, but not fully get grilled back there while you're cooking. All right, now back to the burners. Here is the roast and bake setting. You can see with the roast and bake setting, the front one is on, the back one is on, the middle is off. And this gives you that indirect area on the middle, but you have all of your flames coming around the side for that convective action this direction, as opposed to just the fan this direction. Now on low and slow, that makes just the middle burner lit. You can see that the front is off, the middle is on, the back is off, but this burner running front to back, still on for every style of cook that you do. Someone asked about flare-ups and if they were something that happened with this grill. I find that the fan that's constantly running on the inside really keeps the flare-ups at bay. The only time where I had a flare-up was during our burger cook. If you've ever cooked a burger, you know about that fat that sits on the top. When you turn that burger over for the first time, all of that fat drips straight down into the fire and has a flare-up. But what I found was that flare-up lasted just 2 or 3 seconds and we were back to regular grilling. So that's really my experience with flare-ups on this grill, is they can happen, but when you have the lid closed and that convection is going, flare-ups really weren't a thing for me. We've gotten the question, why is there a plug when this is a propane grill? In order to make the display work or any of the electronics on this, you have to have power. So if you turn this to ignite and then you turn it to all of one of our settings, you'll have the display that lights up. And also, you can hear the fan. That fan has to have power in order to run. You can hear it here in my microphone. No way that's running just on propane. That's what the power's for. Let's check and see if we can actually turn this grill on without being plugged into power. We've unplugged the power cable. We're gonna hit ignite. And nothing happens. This is really just the beginning of a whole new line of products that's coming out in 2025, many of which we already have planned to do full deep dive reviews on. So if you don't want to miss that, make sure you like this video and consider subscribing if you want to catch that content in the near future. Some of you asked where the testing was in our last video. Well, that last video was just about testing whether it could do the 6 things that Ninja said it could do. So the tests are here. Let's get to the biscuit test. We're getting questions about the evenness of cooking on the FlexFlame. We're gonna go ahead and run the biscuit test, which isn't something we always run on gas grills, but it makes sense in this situation. Also, the wind test would be appropriate to run right now too, because it's crazy windy. But we're gonna set this to 350 degrees and see how it performs with a biscuit test. So we're gonna go ahead and ignite it, open the lid. Then if you notice, 350 is down here for 2-zone cooking or roast and bake. Since we're baking biscuits, we're going to choose roast and bake here. And then turn this down to 350. That's going to be our temperature that we're going to roll for this biscuit test. Now, roast and bake tells us that we only have the back and front burners on. That means the middle burner is not on. So it's an evenness test on the baking setting. Let's see how it does. The grill is up to 350 degrees. You can hear the wind. Let's go ahead and put these biscuits on and we'll run this test. All right, so there you have it. 3 in back, 3 in front, 2 in the middle. Let's set a timer for 13 minutes. Okay, it said 13 to 17 minutes, but this is after only 10 minutes on the FlexFlame. And you can see right off the bat that 10 minutes was more than enough because these biscuits are in a convective environment. So let's take a look at what they look like underneath. All right, so it's interesting. You can see that it is pretty even across here, pretty even across here and there, but we have one outlier, and that's where the air is actually being sucked back into the fan. So we have one hot spot right here on this grill. Other than that, this looks pretty good for about, I'd say, 90% of the grill. We've gotten a question of what it's like to clean the FlexFlame, so we're gonna go ahead and take these flavorizer bars out so you can see what things are going on underneath. So if you look, you can see there's plenty of drippings and charred bits underneath here. There's this little TP or little, deflector that's keeping the drip tray separated from the cook chamber, which is keeping the drip tray from lighting up. So I like that that's down there. I think cleaning is going to be just scraping these bits out and then going down and working with the tray below. Let me show you that. Here's the drip tray. It's a simple lift and pull out. There are the drippings that we have from doing briskets and burgers and such. I like that there's removable trays. You can just take the tray out, toss it, put another one in, and that's pretty much it for cleanup. You're cleaning this, you're cleaning the grates, and you're just wiping down the bottom of the grill from the drippings. In just a second, I'm going to take the FlexFlame through our 24-point grading system that I outlined in last week's video. You're definitely going to want to hear this. But before we get into that, I want to ask you a question. What is it that's keeping you from jumping on the Ninja FlexFlame bandwagon? What's keeping one of these out of your backyard? I want to hear down in the comments below. Tell me what your major hesitation is or what your barrier to entry might be, and let's keep this conversation going as we talk about how to get you the perfect grill for your backyard. In the last video that we had on this channel, I put together a scorecard that you can choose to select the perfect grill for you. We're going to use that as our rubric to be able to grade each grill that we review here at the Barbecue Lab. So let's take the FlexFlame through that rubric. Coming in at $999, this isn't a value level grill, and the price reflects it. There are more expensive and less expensive grills, but if I were pricing this, I would price it less than the $999 mark. So this is a level 4 out of 10 for me. Capacity, this isn't designed to be a grill that feeds the neighborhood. For their first time making a full-size appliance, Ninja decided to make the 24-inch version only, and it's sized to feed the family and have another family over. It's well suited for that, but this isn't going to feed easily the whole neighborhood block party. It's a 5 on capacity for me. Comparing the weight of this grill against others in the gas grill category, it's middle of the road. It's not super light, nor is it made of heavy materials. There is a lot of double-walled action here, giving it more heft, but it's still in the middle of the pack for me, and I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Searing on this grill was something that we achieved easily. The highest temperature that we could set was 600 degrees, and it was more than enough for burgers and steaks. The only reason I'm not going higher than an 8 out of 10 here is that it doesn't have a true sear burner function, which will often sear in excess of 1,000 degrees on models where they're added. This grill has really good low-level temp control. You can set the lowest temp on the grill at 180 degrees and it will keep it there. The only reason I can't give it a 10 is because the fan is always running. So while you have low temperatures, you also have convective cooking, which takes true low and slow out of the scope of what's possible with this grill. I'll go with an 8 out of 10. Indirect cooking is possible on the FlexFlame, but it's not true indirect cooking. The flames will always be underneath your food in some fashion, since at least one of the burners has to be on to make heat. But it's the fan circulating the heat around the cooking chamber that gives you the indirect effect more than a true indirect heat source. 7 out of 10 for indirect. Like all Ninja products, the FlexFlame earns its name by being ultimately flexible. I'm going to give it 8.5 out of 10 because while the intention was certainly there, I was left wishing for more smoke flavor on the brisket and the ability to overnight cook, so it didn't quite meet my expectations on the smoking capabilities for me. The construction of the grill isn't the worst that I've seen, but it's pretty middle of the road. The cart almost seems like an afterthought, and it doesn't match the quality of the grill sitting on top of it. The doors on my unit sometimes line up, but when I drag it across the patio, often they won't anymore. The metal's on the thinner side for the cart, so I worry about longevity sitting outside in the patio in the rain. I'll go with a 7 out of 10. There isn't another gas grill on the market that is easier to control than this one that I've tested. Simply set your cooking zone that you want, set the temperature dial, and it controls itself. The only way that it could be better is if there was an app that allows you to have remote control over temperature, which this model does not have. I'll give it a 9 out of 10 for ease of control. Cleaning the FlexFlame is relatively easy, but it's not the easiest I've worked with. I like the fact that there's an aluminum tray that you can throw away and replace with all of the fat drippings, but you still have to brush all of the grates, and you still need to take a flat-bladed scraper and scrape down the insides of the grill to really give it a good clean. I'll go ahead and go with a 6.5 out of 10 for ease of cleaning. There are a lot of great accessories available for the FlexFlame. The griddle, the pizza stone, the half griddle, and more. There's no rotisserie. There's not an internal light for the grill. I don't see a charcoal tray that you can use along with the gas if you want to, so it gets a 7 out of 10 for that. When it comes to fuel considerations, there's only one fuel for the FlexFlame, and that's propane. Natural gas doesn't work with this grill, and the pellets are just burned for smoke and flavor, not fuel. It's a one-hit wonder on the fuel side, as are most gas grills on the market, so a 5 out of 10. The side shelves on the FlexFlame are a pretty good size. I can fit a tray of meat on either side while I'm cooking, but the right side of the grill where the fan is located is smaller than the left side. I tend to put larger trays on the left because of this. I'll give it a 7 out of 10 for shelf space. When you take a look at the cooking grate materials, I believe that the grates on the FlexFlame are porcelain-coated cast iron, and they've been fine. They have the two-sided grates where you can get thin or thick sear marks, but there's also stainless steel grates available as an accessory upgrade. I'll go 7 out of 10 for the grates. For the upper rack, this grill comes with one, and it's easily removable for those who think it's in the way. There are much larger upper racks than this one, but if you're hoping to get a few burgers and dogs away from the fire while the others finish off, this will suffice. 8 out of 10 for the upper rack. Temperature monitoring is usually limited to an analog thermometer in the top of the hood, but as far as propane grills go, this goes beyond what most have with this digital controller. Just set the temperature on the digital dial and the grill will maintain that temperature for you. In our tests, we were getting a consistent temperature at grate level, matching what was set on the digital readout. What the FlexFlame doesn't have is any way to monitor internal temperatures of meat with a meat probe or any remote temperature monitoring, so it's a 6 out of 10 for temp monitoring. Storage space is pretty common on a gas grill, and there are 2 doors on the cart that hide the propane tank and allow for a little bit of storage. But I would love to have the capability to put the optional griddle top in behind the doors. It's probably for the best though, as there's a huge hole in the back of the cart that rain would invite rust on the griddle top if it were left uncovered. There also isn't a way to hang grill tools on this grill, which is something I miss on this design, so it's a 6 out of 10 for storage space. Looking at mobility, most propane grills aren't very mobile, and this is more mobile than most. The wheels are made of plastic, but they're much larger than most of the competition. The front 2 wheels lock, and they're an easy kick on and off, so that earns a 7 for mobility on the FlexFlame. Electronics that manage temperature and constant exposure to the elements can be a problem after years of use. I always recommend buying a grill with a warranty that will last as long as you expect the grill to stick with you. The Ninja warranty is a 10-year limited warranty, which comes out to 10 years on the burners, 3 years on the lid, the flame tamers, firebox, baffle, and all electrical components, and a 1-year warranty on anything else. Burners do tend to be the first thing to wear out on a propane grill, so I like 10 years on those, but 3 years on all other parts, including electrical components, means that you're really only covered 3 years for the rest of the grill components. I'm going to give it a 6.5 for the warranty. The interaction height for this grill is 37 inches, and for me, standing at just under 6 feet tall, it's a good cooking height for me. Melissa is a good bit shorter and says that it's a good height, but she certainly wouldn't want it any higher. I'll go with an 8 out of 10 for the interaction height. For cooking evenness, we tested that by running the Brisket test, and most of the grate is even. The front right of the grilling surface is much hotter than the rest of the grill though, and that Brisket burned, so I think a 6 out of 10 is in order. Wind tolerance, I mean, it's really pretty windy where we're located, and how it operates in the wind is a big deal for us. This cooker is double walled, so wind in the cooking chamber isn't really a problem, except for the convective wind from the fan. This is the only propane grill I've worked with that brings its own wind to the party, so external wind isn't really a factor. With the griddle add-on, the cooking top is recessed, making it much harder for the wind to affect it. It's a 10 out of 10 for working in the wind for this one. As far as regional considerations, you'll have to rate this for yourself. I'm going to take it out of the scoring panel for each grill that we review, but it's up to you to figure in potential burn bans, saltwater spray, or propane use in restricted areas. Important to consider, but I can't rate that for you. When it comes to flavor, propane grills aren't usually grills that impart much flavor into food. About as good as you can get is the char from direct heat exposure, as well as the droppings hitting the flavorizer bar, turning into vapor and wafting back over the meat while it cooks. Ninja takes it further by adding in the wood fire pellet option, which adds a subtle smoky flavor to foods. It's not charcoal or offset levels of flavor, but I'll take it when I'm cooking with propane. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. So is the Ninja FlexFlame just a jack of all trades and a master of none? Would someone want to purchase one appliance that is capable of doing all of these things, even if it's not the absolute best at every single thing? Absolutely. The jack of all trades grills are exactly what some people are looking for, and others would rather have multiple appliances that specialize in one type of cooking each and really specialize in that cooking style. If space limitations are a primary concern, I understand why this grill would be perfect for someone who wants one unit that does it all. For me personally, I would probably prefer to have multiple appliances that specialize, but not everyone has that option. And they're the people that Ninja created this grill for. Here's how I would break it down. Will the FlexFlame outperform an equally priced gas grill? I would say that it could evenly match a gas grill at the same price point without any loss of quality. Will the FlexFlame outperform a pellet grill? Not in my opinion. I get more smoke flavor from the pellet grills I've tested here on the channel, but this grill will cook low and slow. There's a difference between the two, and it's important to note. The FlexFlame could put great bark on meat with a convective air circulation, but if it's deep smoke flavor and smoke rings you're after, it may not live up to your expectations. Will the FlexFlame outperform a flat top griddle? The griddle add-on is great, and it performs as well as most of the griddles that we've tested here at the lab. I wish it were larger, but we'll see what Ninja has in the pipeline for future product offerings. Will the FlexFlame outperform a gas pizza oven? You can certainly cook a good pizza on the FlexFlame, but the advantage that gas ovens have is a much smaller cooking chamber with closer proximity to flames. In that style, you get more charring on top of your pizza. The bottom of the pie against the stone was great, but the taller cooking chamber means the top-down heat in a dedicated pizza oven gives you better top-down cooking. Now, finally, there were a number of questions regarding longevity, customer service, and warranty. Only time will tell what the lifespan of the FlexFlame will be. I really have no idea. As much as I'd love to be able to tell you whether all of these components will outlive their warranty, I can't. But that's the risk we all take with most grill purchases, right? If you're at all interested in picking up a FlexFlame for your backyard, check out the links in the description below. Melissa and I keep our links updated, especially for any discounts we're aware of to help save you some cash. So make sure you check out those links and any discounts we have to save yourself some money. I'm David from the Barbecue Lab. Behind the camera is my beautiful wife, Melissa. We want to say thanks so much for joining us today, and we can't wait to see you on the next one.